And the real reason why Jaguar Wright refused to join his Netflix documentary is even more shocking. Gone Deal, the man who knew every secret Diddy was trying to hide, was also not a part of 50 Cent's documentary. Both Jaguar and Gene Deal are in talks with 50 Cent to be part of season 2. And we've got all the details, starting with why Gene stepped away from what he says was a trap.
It was done too well. It left out too many things.
So can you speak on Curtis Jackson? 50 Cent said that this is the first one. He said there's hundreds of hours of more footage.
I'm sure there was hundreds of hours of that was confiscated from all of Diddy's homes in that HSI grade that never made it to the trap. I wonder where he made it to.
Let's start from the beginning. A month after Diddy was arrested back in September of 2024, 50 Cent and Netflix announced that they were working on a documentary that had never before seen footage of Diddy and was going to expose all of Diddy's lies. 50 promoted the documentary, and according to some of his interviews at the time, he had been collecting evidence for years.
Not in the thing. The lady was talking greasy to me. She had no right to talk greasy to me. And then she told me that 50 didn't have the power to do anything, but they using his name to like push the whole documentary. And that's what it was about.
Now 50 Cent knew that the one person who had the most amount of evidence against Diddy was Gene Deal. Gone was with Diddy for decades, and he had photographs, witness statements, and even video footage to back up everything he was saying. 50 wanted Gone in his documentary and was even posting clips of Gone Deal on his Instagram for years. He called Gene to try and convince him.
Speaking of in particular, Netflix docuseries that you've been working on, Diddy Do It.
Right.
You've been saying for years that you feel you knew Diddy's character.
Right.
Yet you said you weren't a part of that lifestyle, you weren't going to the party. So what makes you so absolutely sure that these kinds of allegations that we've seen against him are true?
Well, I'm surprised by the allegations, as surprised as everyone else. Like, I didn't make the allegations, I didn't tell people to say these things. It comes out, I see it in the news like everyone else. But I did feel uncomfortable with the way he would present the idea of going to this project.
To come party with me.
Yeah. And then that swayed me away from just that long.
So you didn't realize
as much stuff is coming. Like, when I seen today, it was allegations of 3 men that said he drugged them. And it's a long time, to be honest with you. Like, when people don't remember being violated for 20 years.
50 was ready to pay Gone Deal whatever he needed. And all of this was because he knew just how credible Gone really was. Gone got everything he had ready and even called Kirk Burroughs and some of the other music executives that had been wronged by Diddy. He was making sure that 50 had everything he needed to finalize his role. Gone called the producer, and that's where he realized that 50 was actually being tricked. Netflix was using his image to push the docuseries and had no real intention of actually putting out the truth.
A lot of people want to know why you wasn't in it.
Well, first and foremost, you know, I thought I was going to be in the documentary at first until I started talking to that director. I think her name is Stapleton. I don't know her name. We do right here. I don't know, man. Me and 50 talked like 45 minutes. The producers had been calling me and everything. So this one night, 50 called me up, and you know they got him on the phone. Me and him was just talking. We was talking about old times, down with Black Hands, sit down with with Puff Kids, the whole Puff situation, and this documentary that he's going to be doing. You know what I'm saying? So I told him that I was going to, you know, have Kurt and Tim. Kurt would be the one who talk about the business part of it. Tim would be the one who talk about the growing up phase with Diddy and everything like, and over there working in the record industry with him and stuff like that. They was like family. And I was going to talk about, you know, the street stuff, what was going on with Bad Boy, you know, with the security, with Wolf, with the city college, with, you know, the time that I knew about when I was with him up until about early 2004 or something like that. But basically the streets and then the traveling with him and the atmosphere and everything. And then go back into the Notorious Big stuff with the Tupac and the whole 9 yards, all the stuff that I knew. You know what I'm saying? So we were talking, and he sounded like, yo, listen to him. They gonna spare no expense with this whole documentary. So I said, all right, cool.
It wasn't about the money. It was about backing up 50 Cent and what he was saying. Once Gone realized that this documentary was just a money grab for Netflix, he stepped away. The real stories were never told, and as always, the victims were ignored. This is why 50 is working on a second season that he's going to release on YouTube. 50 doesn't trust Netflix to get the job done anymore.
And then she was calling me like I was lying. I'm like, yo, who do you think you're talking to? You know what I'm saying? And she was talking about, there's no way nobody paid. Nobody what? I say, first of all you people come with these documentaries and stuff, the first thing you tell me, y'all tell these people out here that y'all don't pay, and y'all pay. If you can make a picture look like $10,000-$15,000, you know what I'm saying? You can sit here and tell me that you're gonna pay me for my time sitting right down here with y'all. You understand? So then, one thing led to another, and I was like, yo, all right, well, then, F me. I spoke to 50, and then she said 50, and this is exact words that came out her mouth. 50 does not determine what goes in and goes out of this document. And he definitely don't pay. He determine what somebody get paid. It's not his documentary like that. I was like, oh, so if it's not his documentary and I spoke to him like that, I don't need to be doing nothing with you, because I'm doing this on the strength of him. But you gonna pay me if I do it. So it went back and forth, for a little bit, and then they had Kirk Burrows giving me calls and everything like that. What are you calling me for? You know what I'm saying? I'm not. Get out of here. I know what kind of dude you is anyway. Me and you cool and everything, Kirk, but don't call me about no business with this stuff like that. And then what I found out is that he was making the deal, cutting the deal for himself as well as Tim.
Gene respects 50 because 50 doesn't lie or manipulate like Diddy. 50 was only in this for the truth. Freddie P., a major player who first broke the news that Diddy's sons were also involved, actually stood up for 50 Cent. Freddie was called by the producers and also talked to 50 Cent. And that's when he realized that 50 was the only person on that team who cared about the victims. Sick.
In this new interview about 50 that went wrong, where he revealed that he still got unreleased footage.
I seen the interview about, he said that he had, a lot of footage had to be down, the documentary had to be downsized. You understand? I don't really believe that, because a documentary is a documentary, and they could have had 45 minutes, they could have had an hour, to each one of those. You understand? They left out certain things. He said they even left out the one about Sarah Chapman. You understand? And for whatever reason, he probably left out a lot of other different stars too. Situations that they could have spoke about. You understand? I have a problem with the documentary, and I'm just gonna let you know that the reason I have a problem with the documentary is that they know that they took my idea. You understand? They know that when I came to them, I laid out what they should do and how the documentary should be. You understand? She can say whatever she wants to say. I talked to those producers before I even talked to her. They wanted to know what I had, what I was bringing, my pictures, all that stuff like that. And I told them about me, Tim, and Kirk.
And as for Jaguar Wright, she actually thinks that the documentary is full of lies. She refused to be a part of whatever Netflix was putting out because she knew that the industry executives would never put out anything that could hurt them. Once Jaguar actually saw the documentary, all of her fears were confirmed. Diddy's criminal friends weren't mentioned once. Clive Davis, Jay-Z, and Oprah. None of these names were mentioned.
But what Fifth was doing was, he wasn't budging. I give him credit for that. You know what I'm saying? Like, hey man, it wasn't even about the money. It was basically a response from his team, basically like, listen, we doing this on the strength of, we want people to get their story out. We want people who really was affected by him to tell their story. We don't want to base this on money. If we base this on money, then it kind of shuts down, what. So a lot of people, when you see them telling their stories on that DVD, that's why I give the authentication of it. So he made sure that you was only here to, if you want to tell it, tell it. I ain't trying to put nothing in your pocket. I ain't trying to incite you or coerce you to tell nothing against this man that didn't happen. If you gonna tell it, tell it. If you got something to say and you really want the world to hear it, say it. I'm not gonna pay you extra to do it, and I gave them respect for that. And basically, they were basically like, man, we This is not money motivated. You know, this is not, we're not moving numbers around just so people can come talk.
At this point, Diddy is just a scapegoat for the rest of the industry. They're blaming him for everything and trying to say that they weren't responsible for any of it. The documentary didn't discuss any of this, and it never looked at the most important question of all. If Diddy was being investigated for RICO, where were his co-conspirators?
The story isn't over. I agree. Like, that's the thing. The story's not even being told. Because in order to tell the actual whole story, you would have to include everyone that is involved. But no, this is about saving the industry and blaming it all on Diddy. Saving the industry and blaming it all on Diddy. Okay, Diddy's going to jail. He's going to do his time. I don't know if he's. I don't know what that appeal is looking like right now. Because see, the one thing that all of this documentary shit is doing is definitely his possibility for an appeal to get out early. Especially with the judge and them and the appeal board having to look at the footage of him sitting there with Mark Agnifilo, pretty much working on how to fix the trial.
And for him to be watching the feds watching him.
Yeah, filming the feds. What?
Filming.
Jaguar believes that if the complete list of everyone involved with Diddy ever came out, it would destroy the entertainment industry. How is it possible that Diddy hundreds of victims throughout his career, but no one around him knew? Like, do you really expect us to believe that Diddy was doing all of this alone?
They did what they needed to do in this documentary. The whole objective of this documentary was to blame it all on Diddy. The devil made me do it, blame it all on Diddy. And the rest of the industry is nothing like this. Like when Curtis Jackson sat there in his interview with Robin and sat there and said, I did this because I don't want people thinking that the hip hop community is okay with this kind of behavior. I don't want them thinking that, we're just going to be silent while all of this is going on. Like, we're okay with this kind of behavior. And my thing is so now you speaking for all of hip hop, and all of hip hop is uncomfortable with this. Meanwhile, you got people like Jaguar who, on the low key, allegedly, Gene Deal has exposed for having his own nude tryst freak offs with Diddy.